So the lady on the video says that people just aren't getting it. People just aren't getting it anymore when it comes to dating. And I have to agree with her. I think people are not getting it, but I disagree with her on what they're not getting. I think that she says there's nothing more important than sharing your life with someone. And I kind of take some issues with that. I kind of take a few issues with that. And so this last week, I did a YouTube search. You could probably tell it because we played a few videos this morning. I did a YouTube search on the word singleness. And on singleness, the word singleness, all the videos that came back were all like Christian videos with pastors standing up in front of congregations preaching messages on how to be single in a good way. And so they were all talking about singleness from this sort of spiritual perspective. In fact, singleness is in the title of our message. It's going to go on YouTube next week. And so lo and behold, we're just adding to the fray. But then I changed it, and there were also some single people on there talking to other single people, trying to encourage them in ways. But it was all Christian. The word singleness apparently is a Christian word. And then the word single is another word that I searched for. And when I looked for single, all the videos were about how to fix yourself so that you're not single anymore. All the videos were, what's wrong with you that you're single? And there were like one or two videos where someone was saying, hey man, just embrace singleness and be cool with it. But all the rest of them were, fix yourself. There's something wrong with you. You got no one? Well, that's because of you. Look in the mirror. And I was just thinking, okay, maybe we're missing something, like the lady said. Maybe we're not getting it. Because Jesus was single. Paul was single. Elijah was single. Elisha was single. David, when he killed Goliath, was single. There are a lot of heroes of the Bible who were single. And I think part of our problem is that we've got a bad definition. We've got a misunderstanding of what the word single really should be, and that concept is stuck in our mind in kind of a wrong way. See, if you look at the world around us, being single means just a few things. It means, A, you're free to sow your wild oats. Okay, you watch television, that's what you find. Single people are the ones who are sowing their wild oats. Other times, single people are the lonely people. They're the people who are looking for someone to sow some oats with, and they're lonely. And it's like, is this really what life is all about? Is that what it's all about? And then, see, our world has another category of people. And you know this from Facebook. It's called in a relationship. Okay, you know this one. You've gone to your Facebook friends pages and you look on the side and it says, in a relationship. Next week it says, it's complicated. Next week, they've changed their last name to be the last name of someone else. And you're like, what's going on here? And then it says it's complicated, but they've still got the last name thing and it's all messed up. And so we've got these other categories that are at least it's in a relationship, and then the it's complicated thing. I don't want to go there because it's just too complicated. They're wrong. That's just what it is. Okay, so the in a relationship one, you don't find in the Bible. Okay? The word single is not in the Bible when it's referring to a human being. So, in the Bible, you get a completely different concept. In the Bible, the concept you get is unmarried. See, our world has this idea. There's married people, there are couples, there are those in a relationship, but they're not really couples. They're just kind of seeing each other. Then there's the singles. And so when you talk about being single, some of us in this room, you're single. You're in this camp right here, and you're looking at all these other people, the couples and the people in relationships, and you're, man, I wish I could be like them. Well, the Bible doesn't say those exist. The Bible doesn't even indicate that's a real category. In the Bible, there's only married and unmarried. And this is very important. It's kind of a soapbox of mine. It's very important. Anytime someone calls me up, there's a lady on the phone. She's like, I need some help. My boyfriend, thus, and such, whatever. And I'm just trying to figure out how to understand him better, how to work with him better, how to deal with this stuff better. Do you do relationship counseling? And I'll be like, well, to tell you the truth, there is no relationship. Are you married? No? Then you're single. Okay? Then you're unmarried. You fall under the umbrella of all the things the Bible talks about when it comes to being single, when it comes to being unmarried. And so I want to offer you guys just a challenge and a perspective. today. The challenge is this. If you are unmarried, be single. I'm serious about that. We get a lot of people, and what they'll do, I wanted to do this too before I kind of learned this principle. I wanted to do this too. I wanted to be connected with someone else. I wanted to link myself to someone else. I wanted to be in a relationship. When I was in high school, there was this girl I thought was cute, and I wanted to be in a relationship with her. And so I asked her to go to the homecoming banquet with me, because I was at a school that didn't do dances. We did banquets, and so, whatever. So I asked her to go to the homecoming banquet with me, and she said yes. And then a couple weeks later, we went on a mission trip together, and I was like, cool, mission trip with the girl I'm going to the homecoming banquet with. Score, my girlfriend, we're going on a mission trip. But we went on the mission trip, and she started hanging out with all these other guys. And I was like heartbroken. I was like, what's going on here? And I prayed, and I said, God, tell me something here. What's going on here? And I realized, wait a minute, what I really need is I need to experience God's love. And I asked him for that, and he revealed himself to me in a powerful way there in Mexico, and I've never looked back, and we never dated again either. But it was one of these things where we've got this concept that says, I want to link myself to someone, and the Bible doesn't give you that category unless marriage is the linking. Okay? Yeah. Now, yes, there's engagement in the Bible. Joseph and Mary were engaged before Jesus was born, but biblical engagement simply means holding pattern. It means you have all the responsibilities of marriage with none of the benefits. If Joseph wanted to end the relationship with Mary, he needed to divorce her, even though they weren't married yet. That's what the Bible thinks of when it says engagement. Okay, so that's my challenge. If you're not married, be single. Perspective. Some of you have moments in your past where you were connected deeply with someone. You were emotionally, physically, financially connected. You shared a cell phone plan, you shared a house. Some of you have been in that experience before, and you know what I'm talking about. And then it ended, and you have pain that's still lingering in your heart from that. The perspective that I offer you is that when that happened, you were single the entire time. You were unmarried and unconnected the entire time. And the connection that you made with the other person was a mistake. Apologize to God for it. Ask Him to cleanse you. Move on. Some of you, however, are in a different scenario altogether. Some of you in this room are married, and you know some single people that you need to help them have this perspective. Some of you are single for reasons that I haven't mentioned yet. You were married, you loved it, you didn't want it to end, and someone else ended it. And you're here and you're trying to figure out all that stuff. Well, all I can say is that today, my heart and my intent is to open up God's Word to let you know the beauty and the privilege that there is for those who are unmarried, who find themselves receiving love from God and committing their hearts to Him. So for those of you who are married, listen up for your friends, or maybe for someday when you face this yourself. But for those of you who are single, unmarried, let's deal with this. The first blank I want you to write down, just reminding you of this. The Bible doesn't talk about being single, but about being unmarried. And so we're going to spend our time today talking about that, what it means for those people who are unmarried. And the first passage we're going to look at is in Matthew 19. This passage is going to blow your mind. This passage is going to challenge you in ways. It's going to really expose. I'm hearing a lot of woo up here on the stage. Is that my guitar? Do I need to fix something? I don't know. If it is, let me know. Anyway, Matthew 19. This is going to blow your mind. Jesus does something really interesting here. And the first time I read this, I was thinking to myself, did he just say that? Did he just go there? And oh yes, he did. So Matthew 19, beginning in verse 8. Okay, so I'll set it up for you. The Pharisees come and they're asking Jesus about marriage and divorce. And Jesus is basically saying, if you get a divorce, you've committed adultery. And so we pick it up in verse 8. Jesus replied, Moses permitted you to divorce your wives because your hearts were hard, but it was not this way from the beginning. I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, and marries another woman, commits adultery. The disciples said to him, if this is the situation between a husband and wife, it's better not to marry. And I just think, well, that's a weird statement to make. What the disciples are saying is, if I'm not allowed to get a divorce, it's better not to get married. They're saying, now wait a minute, Jesus, are you sure about this? I need my exit clause. I need my ability to get out. The disciples are saying, if people get married, they are almost guaranteeing themselves adultery on their record. Because that means one of these days when they get the divorce, and everybody gets divorced, even these guys thought that, and everybody's going to get divorced, you have a better chance of getting divorced than you do of staying together, according to the disciples here. It's better not to get married in the first place. Their culture must have been very similar to ours in the whole marriage and divorce thing. And the disciples are now thinking, I don't know if I can handle this one person for life deal. But see, what Jesus does is he flips it, and he teaches them a lesson on singleness that should blow your mind. Check this out. Jesus says to them, they just said, remember, it's better not to marry. Jesus says, not everyone can accept that. Not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it has been given. For there are eunuchs who were born that way, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by others, and there are those who choose to live like eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. The one who can accept this should accept this. Now, what Jesus did is really weird. The first time I read this, I was like, what's he doing? What's happening here? Because he takes this idea of marriage. They say, maybe we shouldn't get married. And Jesus starts talking about eunuchs. And why this is so weird is that a eunuch, remember, if you're not familiar with ancient history or maybe even modern times, the word itself, a eunuch is a person who is physically incapable of sexual relations. It's usually used to refer to a man who is physically incapable of doing anything sexual. In the ancient world, eunuchs they'd be slaves that then would be castrated and then used to watch over the king's harem, because the king needed to have someone in there that he could trust to guard the harem. And if it was a woman, he would want that person in his harem anyway, and so he needed a guy to be in the harem to control the women and guide them and guard them and protect them, and yet also to not be a threat to him. And so they would use eunuchs in that position. And here's the crazy thing. In the Jewish mindset, a eunuch was the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of the lowest. You had every other category of human being, and at the very bottom of the totem pole were the eunuchs. They were barely even human in the Jewish mindset. And Jesus not only uses them, he puts them on a pedestal to say, some are eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven. And so now we have to analyze this.